This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
OPEC on Tuesday cut its forecast for global oil demand growth in 2024, reflecting data received so far this year, and also trimmed its expectation for next year, marking the producer group's second consecutive downward revision. The weaker outlook further underscores the challenge faced by OPEC+, which comprises the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and allies such as Russia in balancing the market. Last week, OPEC+ delayed a plan to start pumping more oil after prices hit the lowest in 2024. On Tuesday, OPEC in a monthly report said world oil demand will rise by 2.03 million barrels per day, BPD, in 2024, down from growth of 2.11 million barrels of oil per day it expected last month.
China's daily crude oil imports rose last month to their highest in a year, customs data and Reuters records showed on Tuesday, as shipments staged a tentative recovery on lower crude oil prices and improving refining margins. Daily crude oil imports stood at 11.56 million barrels per day, BPD, last month, the highest since August a year earlier, according to General Administration of Customs data, which can sometimes be revised later. Total shipments for the month stood at 49.10 million metric tons, down 7% on the year as low fuel consumption continued to keep demand capped. That was, however, up from 42.34 million tons in July, the lowest level since September 2022.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
Iraq faces a budget crunch in 2025 due to the slump in the price of oil, the overwhelming source of government revenue, a top economic advisor to Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani said. "We don't anticipate major problems in 2024, but we need stricter financial discipline for 2025, Mudassala told Reuters in an interview late on Monday. Iraq, OPEC's second-largest producer, is heavily dependent on oil revenues. The hydrocarbon sector accounts for the vast majority of export earnings and some 90% of state revenue. This huge reliance on oil makes Iraq particularly vulnerable to fluctuations in global crude prices."
China's coal imports rose 3% in August as utilities continued to stock up amid record-breaking hot weather, but rising renewable power generation appears to be slowly dampening the pace of import gains. August shipments stood at 45.84 million metric tons, data from the General Administration of Customs showed on Tuesday. However, that was down from July's 46.21 million tons, a 7-month high. July was China's hottest month since records began, and heat waves continued to sweep across the country in August. That led to soaring power demand as households and business turned on their air conditioners. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. China's imports of unwrought copper slid in August to a 16-month low, customs data showed on Tuesday, as weaker demand for the metal hit arrivals. Imports of unwrought copper and products stood at 415,000 metric tons last month, down 12.3% from the year-earlier figure of 473,330 tons and the lowest since last April, data from the General Administration of Customs showed. The figure marked a decline of 5.3% from July's imports. Demand for the metal used for power, construction and transportation sectors was hit by manufacturing weakness in the world's second-largest economy.
China's iron ore imports in August fell 1.38% from July and slipped 4.73% from a year earlier, customs data showed on Tuesday, as falling steel prices and a gloomy demand outlook dampened buyers' appetite. China, the world's largest iron ore consumer, brought in 101.39 million metric tons of the key steelmaking ingredient last month, according to data from the General Administration of Customs. Panic selling triggered by new requirements for steel quality hurt sentiment in the world's largest steel market, prompting many steelmakers to cut output, which dented their appetite for raw materials including iron ore, analysts said.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
China brought in a record 12.14 million metric tons of soybeans in August, as traders took advantage of lower prices to stock up amid concerns that trade tension with the United States could intensify if Donald Trump returned as president. Last month's imports were a jump of 29% from 9.43 million tons a year ago, according to Reuters calculations based on customs data released on Tuesday. The increase was because the ships that were delayed from customs clearance last month finally got cleared this month, Rosa Wang, analyst at Shanghai-based agro consultancy JCI said.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.